going to upset Texas.
I'd give a rat's ass about Twitter.
You know it's a Monday when you're starting College Football Live off with a fart noise. Laura Rutledge, Paul Feinbaum, and Joey Galloway here. What a treat to have you two. Paul, we'll start with you. Most impressive performance from the weekend?
I liked what I saw from the Dogs, Laura, because we weren't really sure what Kirby Smart was going to put on the field after a devastating loss a couple weeks ago to LSU. And what we saw was what we were expecting to see with Jake Fromm and company. It was a good show.
I like what Northwestern did. Now, I was impressed with Georgia, but Northwestern knocking off Wisconsin. The Big Ten West has been all Wisconsin. That's all we've been talking about. And now here comes Northwestern. They're in the lead. And not only did they win, but they shut down Jonathan Taylor, held him to under 50 yards. Very impressive.
Northwestern has Notre Dame this week. That'll be interesting. My most impressive was Oklahoma State. Mike Gundy always has something up his sleeve, and the Big 12 wide open. College Football Live starts right now. Plenty more to come from these two guys.
Welcome to College Football Live, presented by ZipRecruiter.
Let's find out who was smart under pressure, brought to you by ZipRecruiter. Taylor Cornelius is best known for his arm, but this 10-yard run on 3rd and goal gave Oklahoma State a 10-point fourth-quarter lead en route to their win over Texas. So we begin here for winners and losers from the weekend. And, Paul, we'll start with you. Texas, at this point, after that loss to Oklahoma State, what do we think about their playoff chances?
How about over, Laura? Kaput, done. They have no shot. Listen, they had a nice thing going. I never quite bought into the Texas is back routine that we hear every time they win an important game. Tom Herman is turning that program around, but when you couple the Maryland loss with this, nice bowl game, but not the playoffs this time around.
Unfortunately, Paul, I bought in. I had Texas right up there at the top. I thought after the Oklahoma win, one of the best wins of the season of anybody, I thought Texas was there. I liked the way they were playing on defense. I knew that offense, they knew how to grind it out with Sam Ehlinger, and they just didn't defensively show up in this game. And I give Cornelius a lot of credit. He made plays.
Okay, but guys, as I mentioned, the Big 12 feels wide open from the title standpoint. Paul, what about Texas still winning the Big 12 championship, even if they don't get to the playoff?
Well, they certainly could do that, although right now I don't think they're going to get past Oklahoma, assuming that we get that matchup again. Oklahoma is turning it on very nicely. We really shouldn't be surprised by that. They had that one stumble, but right now I think Oklahoma is the noise that we're going to hear from the Big 12 when it comes to the college football playoff.
What's interesting is we feel the same way right now as we felt when Texas-Oklahoma played, during this season. We thought Oklahoma was the better team. Somehow Texas went in, held them to 45 points and found a way to win that game. I guess if we're looking at it again after watching Texas against Oklahoma State, then it feels like it's back to normal, like Oklahoma's the better team and they're still putting up a ton of points. They got to get better defensively, which we'll watch, what Ruffin McNeil does with this defense, but still a little shaky on the defensive side. But, I mean, their offense is ridiculous. So Oklahoma looks like the best team.
As we continue with winners and losers from the weekend, how about a winner? And that would be the Georgia Bulldogs. Paul, they were your most impressive team. What did they do to launch their names back into the college football playoff conversation?
Well, the most important thing they didn't do was listening to people like me and others who wanted a quarterback change. Kirby Smart, being very stubborn, decided I'm sticking with and staying with Jake Fromm. His game plan at times was baffling, especially in the red zone, especially on the goal line. But Kirby said, you know what, I'm probably going to beat Florida with a couple of field goals. They had the late run by Swift later on. And in the end, they were very impressive, staying the course and not listening to the noise.
I was very impressed with what Jake Fromm did, the way he rebounded after the LSU game. They took the week off. And I know it's tough. When you play and you lose a football game, you don't play well. You have to sit for a week and have to think about that before you get back on the field. I was impressed with Jake Fromm. I, like you, Paul, though, makes me nervous of what they did in the red zone. When they couldn't put balls in the end zone and they're trying to run it and they're getting stuffed, that makes you nervous. They made Florida turn the ball over a couple times early in that game. And they got another late one in scoring position. And to not get touchdowns in that situation, you feel great about this win, but it makes you nervous moving forward because then you think, who would they beat, if it wasn't for Florida and a struggling offensive team that turned it over 3 times in a game if they did the same thing?
Well, fortunately, Joey, they play a team that's even struggling more on offense this week in Kentucky. I mean, it's hard to imagine how Kentucky is right outside the top 10 with what they're putting up production-wise on an offensive standpoint. But beyond that, though, Georgia will run up against Auburn and then Georgia Tech, which Laura saw the other night. Very surprising team that you never know what you're going to get from them. So Georgia just needs to worry about Kroger Field Saturday in an atmosphere that we perhaps haven't ever seen before in Lexington, Kentucky. But the Kentucky offense needs to be retooled as well.
But, Paul, tell me you weren't a little, just a tiny bit impressed with Terry Wilson for Kentucky. It's been a struggle to throw the ball. But against Missouri, at least he was successful throwing and won the game on a pass play. So if Georgia's watching film this week, they at least got to assume that Terry Wilson can complete a pass. Before this game against Missouri, all you had to do is worry about Benny Snell. Can we stop him from running and Terry Wilson's ability to run? At least now they got to put some defensive backs on the field and it just might possibly have to worry about a pass play.
The only thing I don't know, Joey, is if Terry Wilson can bring the officials with him from Columbia because they played a big role.
Okay, and by the way, guys, anytime Benny Snell has been challenged and doubted, he has risen to the occasion this year. We'll see, except maybe against Texas A&M. As for the triple option, Georgia practices plenty of that in the spring and summer, but Georgia Tech looked better than we expected. How about another loser, though, from the weekend? And that's preseason predictions. What do any of us know? Apparently nothing, because look at what Northwestern's doing. Look at Virginia. Are we going to see, Joey, competitive conference championship games with the way that some of these leagues are playing out?
I think we will, no matter what. For some reason, when you get to the end, conference championships games usually look like pretty good football games, regardless of who's playing on the other side. I don't think there's a world beater in the Big Ten on the east side. If Michigan, who looks like the best team, gets in, they're not the kind of team that beats teams 60-0. It's just not their style of play. Clemson versus Virginia would look like a blowout on tape, but we've also seen Clemson playing close games with teams we didn't think would be close, like a team like a Syracuse. And so when we get to the end, whoever deserves to be there, I think they'll show up, and I think it'll be a pretty good game, whether it's the Big Ten or the ACC.
Yeah, I think in those two leagues, you're right. Now, the SEC could be a mismatch if Kentucky gets in there over Georgia this weekend. And beyond that, I'm not sure it's going to make a whole lot of difference. But anytime, Joey, back to what you said, you get Michigan in a game, it has a chance of being close because of the way they play offense. And their defense, though, is very difficult to score on. I remember watching the Michigan-Northwestern game a couple weeks ago on a plane, and I was just hoping the pilot wasn't watching because he would have fallen asleep.
Yeah, Northwestern atop the Big Ten West, and Virginia, as we mentioned, atop the ACC Coast. So you just never know what's going to happen in college football. Okay, another winner, and this one's interesting because it's actually about typical losers. Oregon State and Kansas finally winning some games. Paul, what do you have to say about this?
Well, for all of us who had Beatty on the hot seat, maybe we ought to take a breather at Kansas. I can't explain that program. They're easy to forget. Oregon State gotten a little bit better. It's always interesting to see teams that have not done anything, Joey, come back and make an imprint, but you also wonder about the league that they're in.
Yeah, Kansas has been fun this season. They've broken some streaks. Their losing streak was broken. They went on a win streak. They won 2 games in a row. I was all on board with Kansas there for a while in the middle of the season. So it's been fun to see them enjoy some success. Oregon State's been in a complete struggle. But you knew from the beginning of the season, this is the same team that put 31 points at Ohio State in Columbus. So you knew they had the ability to score points. So it's great to see teams that don't have success find some success. Colorado started to look like what people thought they would be at the beginning of the season after they went on their win streak and sort of surprised people. Now they've come back down to earth.
Wait, Joey, you were on Kansas? I wasn't sure that you were actually serious about that.
See, here's the problem, Laura. College football final comes on after you're already asleep because it comes on pretty late. But, oh, yeah, I had my Jayhawks hat on. I was rock chalk Jayhawk all the way. We was on. Yeah, thank you, Paul. We was on a win streak down there. A win streak. That man was saying.
I was being sarcastic, Mr. Galloway. I actually think you sleep.
See, Laura, I get Joey. I watch the final at 5 a.m. on Sunday morning when I'm getting ready to go in. And I may be the only person that's watching it. And I heard him say that a couple of weeks ago.
He loves it. Paul. He's all about the Jayhawks. Hey, plenty more to come on College Football Live.
Is presented by ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Let's take a look at this week's rankings. Mayhem brought to you by Allstate. Washington State moves into the top 10 after Gardner Minshew threw for 438 yards and 3 touchdowns at Stanford. Here's Mike Leach on why Minshew needs some Heisman attention.
I mean, when you consider, it kind of depends what they give the award for, and they seem very confused right now. Yeah, well, I mean, because what it used to be was who's got the biggest impact on their specific team. And so, I mean, I would love to hear the guy that, outshines Gardner with regard to that.
Okay, I could listen to Mike Leach talk all day long because you always know it's going to be interesting. But Paul and Joey, as we start to play word association here, we'll start with you, Paul. Minshew for Heisman, what comes to your mind?
Unlikely.
Nice
handwriting. I like him. I had to clean it up because I was afraid to misspell a word on national television. But I was not a spelling bee champ for you, Joey.
Hey, Paul, that's why they brought you in here, because Greg can't hang with me on this segment because my words are too deep. That's why they brought you in. And here we go. Here's my word. Laura, can you see that?
I've got it.
Yeah.
Joey, I would be nervous writing that word out.
Well, Paul, get your mind out the gutter here. This is a clean show. I'm just saying it's stimulating. Yeah, it's stimulating. It makes you think. He's putting up terrific numbers, and just like Laura, a lot of people on the East Coast are sleeping late at night, so they don't get to see it. He's putting up great numbers. He was leading the country in passing, so I'm just saying it's a stimulating statement.
I didn't write anything negative. I wasn't being deleterious.
You went unlikely, which, all right.
Hey, listen, get out your thesaurus here on Word Association College Football Live. Our next topic would be Kentucky's comeback. They end up winning it 14-13 over Missouri. And Joey, what word top of mind for this one?
I'm going with cha-ching, because Kentucky was they were a 7-point underdog. I'm not going to say who, but some people took Kentucky +7. And so some people needed the comeback. I'm not going to say who did it, but some people benefited from the Kentucky comeback. That's why it's cha-ching.
Laura, I turned the game off, went out for a little while, got back, and my reaction was this. I was gobsmacked by the win.
Gobsmacked.
I like it, Paul.
You know that
Bring your A game. I like your A game, though. What is it?
It means it's a British word for just being totally floored.
So say it in a British accent.
Gobsmacked.
Okay.
What?
You know, Laura, I've got some British in me.
He does. That's why
I don't want to go Brit on this show.
Yeah, don't. We won't be able to understand you. Okay, how about this? Bama opening up as a 14.5-point favorite over LSU, the biggest home underdog since 1997. Word association, Paul, what is the word for this one? It's going to take him a while to write this one down.
Paul got it right.
It's duh. Like, come on. Like, who is surprised by this? Come on. This is what you expect every year. This game has not been competitive. I mean, we've had some competitive games, but the line has been completely out of whack for many, many years, Joey.
I'm going Hawaii 5-0. Yeah, exactly. Paul, I went back to your era. Laura wasn't around for this. Our producer, Claire Atkins, wasn't born for this show. Exactly. Back in the day.
Dano.
Thank you, Paul. Book 'em, Dano. I love this line. Again, I'm not saying that I bet, and I don't know who does bet, but when I saw this line, the first thing I thought was, book 'em. This is one
Joey,
that you should go ahead and bet the house on.
I hate to do this to you. It was a great show in my era. It's on TV again on CBS. right now.
Oh, no, Paul. The remakes are never the same, Paul. Never the same.
Never the same, just as sequels are never the same. Okay, next one, big boy touchdowns. We saw some great ones over the weekend. And we'll start with you, Joey. What's your word association on the big boy TDs?
As in William Perry, the refrigerator, back in the day, 84 with the Bears, 85, I'm sorry, with the Chicago
85.
Bears. He scored touchdowns. He caught a pass for a touchdown. He rushed for a touchdown. And I think more importantly, he danced. Paul, when's the last time you watched a Super Bowl shuffle? The Bears back in '85. If you honestly haven't seen it recently, go back and watch it. It is priceless. And here's the dancing. Go back, watch a Super Bowl shuffle, the Chicago Bears 1985. And honestly, watch the white guys dancing in the back. It's the best thing you'll see in a long time. Laura, go YouTube Super Bowl shuffle 1985.
I will do that while Paul's doing his word.
I'm going back to my era. It was groovy.
Okay, wait. Was that an Irish jig that guy was doing? Like, can we see that video one more time of the Northwestern
that guy's terrific. That's my favorite. That's my favorite part of the weekend.
Well, I have to say one thing. When I would do this show every day with Danny Cannell back in the day, we didn't do word association game. We just went after each other. Remember, Joey?
Yeah, I remember those days. Paul, we've got way more educated now that Laura's a part of the show. Now we try to get into our minds.
I can go after both of you if I want. Irish jig, right? Let's see the guy right there to the right. Definitely an Irish jig. And he also, very nice flexibility by him as he jigs it out on the sideline. Really good job, guys, on the word association. I would give Paul maybe an A- on words. Joey, you were somewhere around a B+. As we continue on College Football Live, we've got a lot more to come from these guys, and we're going to talk about their top sixes. Who's in? The College Football Playoff Committee will tell you who they say is in, and Paul and Joey will tell you. 1988 Heisman Trophy winner Barry Sanders was honored Saturday night in Stillwater, and we asked Sanders who he thinks the Heisman frontrunner is in today's Nissan Heisman interview.
This year, once again, you have a great group of kids that have stood out among the crowd, and Tua is probably the first name you think of. You know, in his short career, you look at what he's done in just such a short window with the championship game, and then this season pretty much played impeccable ball with, top team in the country.
Let's take a look at this week's college football rankings brought to you by Chick-fil-A. Of course, these the AP rankings. No change in the top 5 with Tua's Alabama squad still leading the way. Further down in the top 10, UCF now at number 9, Washington State now at 10. So let's talk about who should be in Tuesday in the first college football playoff top 25. We will have the reveal right here on ESPN at 7 p.m. So, Joey, we start with you. Give us your top 6, and then we'll get Paul's.
I am very similar to what the AP had, except I had Michigan above LSU right now. And I know a lot of people have been screaming, hey, what about the LSU resume? What about the top 10 wins against Auburn and Miami, who are no longer ranked because they weren't what we thought they were to begin the season? But honestly, for everyone who's yelling about resumes and saying that the resume should matter, not just looking at them saying who should win, then Notre Dame should really be above Clemson, because who has Clemson beat? And Notre Dame has a much better resume than Clemson. And then the LSU people are screaming, what about their resume? If the committee gives LSU credit for those top 10 wins, then heck, they should be up there at number 2 also.
Yeah, I think the LSU situation is where we differ. I'm going to kick them up 1, but they're pretty much splitting hairs. LSU's win over Georgia, Notre Dame's win over Michigan, pretty much the same, maybe one off. I think the committee will like LSU tomorrow, but Joey, it's not going to matter one bit, because LSU, should it lose to Alabama, we'll forget about them. Should they beat Alabama, they very well may be number 1 the following week.
You're absolutely right. And I was wondering if the committee is sitting there thinking, man, if we could have just waited one more week before we come out with our rankings, this thing is going to clear up so much on Saturday that next week will look completely different.
Yeah, Joey, we got that TV show tomorrow night to worry about, though.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys will both be a big part of that TV show, the College Football Playoff Top 25 rankings. For the first time in 2018, we'll get to see what the committee wants to do, and I think we'll at least know a little bit about how they feel about strength of schedule and strength of record. LSU is a big part of that. Maybe we see UCF somewhere in that top 10. I've got UCF and Temple on Thursday. They'll be happy if that's the case. Thanks to Paul and Joey. I will. I'm going to give him a fruit basket from you.